here to introduce you to the Diptera of the North Knots. So, Derek Whiteley is the Secretary and Hoverfly Recorder for the Sorby Invertebrate group. So, professionally he's worked at Sheffield Museum for 25 years, followed by 18 years with Sheffield City Ecology Unit. He's always considered himself an amateur enthusiast too. He retired in 2018 and now spends most of his time recording insects in the Peak District, Yorkshire, Notts and Fairfield. So,
thank you. Thank you very much. So, folks, we heard from one of the talks this morning that flies, Diptera, are top of the leaderboard for pollinators. But my aim today is to give you a taste of the richness and the diversity and the beauty of flies in North Notts. So I want to try and inspire you to go out and record flies, catch them, photograph them, identify them, observe them, but most important of all, to report them, to record them. I'll be touching on that at the end of the show. So just for introduction, a beautiful little fly. This is called the fen snout, and it's one of the aquatic soldier flies. An exquisite little group of flies. More about them later. So just to introduce you what we do and a bit of my background, Sorby Invertebrate Group covers an area called Derbyshire. And and the reason we're not stuck to one county is because it originated in Sheffield 105 years ago, and the Invertebrate Group's been going about 30, 40 years. So traditionally, the group recorded around Sheffield, and then about 50 years ago they squared it all off, which left us with chunks of different counties, most of the Peak District, South Yorkshire. But today's subject of today's talk is this green area, which is North Notts. And we have recorders for each group, and I look after the Diptera database, which currently has 170,000 records for that area. I live in the Peak District on the River Wye, just there. But I've been recording flies in North Notts since the 1980s. Started off doing a survey of West Burton Power Station, and then we were asked by the NCC to look at triple SIs around Mansfield. So then I got involved in Clumber with Alan and Annette Binding around about the millennium. And then in 2015, the Dipteris Forum held their field week in Nottinghamshire, created a huge pile of records. And then over those 30 years, SIG has had frequent visits to various North Notts sites. So from our database, we can generate maps like these using DMAP from the database. So that gives you a map of all Hoverfly records. And I've just put that in just to show you that North Notts is actually, compared to the Peak District, it's quite well recorded for hoverflies. But the beauty of this map is that it shows you where the blanks are. It shows you where people have not been and where people have not recorded hoverflies. So the take-home message is, there's still quite a lot to do. You can still make a big impact. And then we've done a series of local atlases where we actually map individual species. So this is a map of the kite-tailed robberfly, and you can see, for example, that there's a good splatter of records on the Nottinghamshire heathlands. Otherwise, it seems to be quite at home in the Peak District. But yeah, so that's just an example. And we produce those as PDFs, and they're constantly being updated and replaced on our website. You can download those and have a look at them. But for all the major groups, hoverflies, robberflies, soldier flies, and the groups I'm going to talk about today. Some useful reference sources. People have already mentioned Carr's 2 volumes. brilliant piece of work for the time, 1916 and 1935. Invertebrate fauna of Nottinghamshire, covers all invertebrates. So very, very useful, invaluable historical reference. And then Brian Wetton, who's here today, has been actively recording Knott's hoverflies since 1987, and he's published 3 key papers in our journal, the Sorby Record. And he's recently just published one in the Danish Journal as well. And then I cannot overemphasise how good the Eating Birds website is. Already been mentioned today. Trevor and Lake Dennis Pendleton. Fantastic website, masses of information about Nottinghamshire invertebrates. It's called Eating Birds, but it's mainly invertebrates. And then I've already mentioned our group atlases as PDFs. So the 3 papers that Brian's written on the hoverflies of Nottinghamshire are all available today in hard copy, or you can download them as PDFs from our website. These are available outside on our stand for free. Okay, so we'll look at some Nottinghamshire habitats. So North Notts is obviously famous for its ancient woodlands, parklands and veteran trees. This is the lime tree, Aberdeen clumber. And we've seen this morning from Adrian just how important these are for beetles, but they're also important micro-habitats for saprosilic flies, saprosilic deadwood-eating flies. And so you've got micro-habitats like rot holes, wet or dry rot holes, hollow trunks with heart rot. We talked about heart rot earlier. Bracket fungi, sap runs, flaky bark, rotting logs in water attract different species to rotting logs on dry land, etc. So for hoverflies especially, and other saplings like Diptera, we're looking at similar habitats to the ones that Adrian mentioned. Oak, ash, beech, pines, yes, horse chestnut, backing up there, and strangely enough, sycamore. This is one of a row of mature sycamores, quite ordinary mature sycamores near Blythe, but it's got a rot hole, it's got a wet rot hole, and you can see the goo overflowing and running down the trunk, and it's the home to a very rare hoverfly, Lolotta simpliciformis. And this group of hoverflies that lives in sort of semi-aquatic goo, it includes the droneflies as well, they have this telescopic breathing tube. So they can live submerged, and the telescopic breathing tube can take in atmospheric oxygen. So there's a whole group of hoverflies that live in this sort of gooey matter. The adult looks entirely different. Oh, I must say this is a very, very rare hoverfly nationally, and I think we've only got 2 records for Nottinghamshire. So I found this one just by walking along, putting my hand in there, grabbing a handful of goo, and there it was. The giveaway is those little pouches there. Identifies it as Lolotta simpliciformis. Easy as that. Easy as that. So that's the adult. Looks like a typical dronefly, which tend to mimic bees. A lot of the hoverflies mimic the hymenoptera. So it looks a bit like a bee. 2 weeks. And the thing about this species, it's got a greenish tinge to it as well. It doesn't show very well on the slide. So yeah, also recorded in Clumber Park in 2004. So mine was the same. The second record for Knott, I don't think it's been found since. And then another great rarity is the so-called bumblefly. That is a hoverfly. It not only looks like a white-tailed bumblebee, it actually behaves like one. Identical behaviour. It's a perfect mimic. And sometimes when I'm watching these, what I tend to do is just find a suitable tree and just stand there for hours until the flies come along. Sometimes you think, is that a bee or is it a fly? It's as good as that. So I've actually, there's only one record for Nottinghamshire. So it says there, who's going to find the next one? It's going to be somewhere else. It's been recorded, the one record's from Worksop, but it's going to be in other classic areas with trees like that. So, you know, the challenge is on to find the second one. But I did a special study of this species last year in Whiteley in North Yorkshire. And I found that it favours rotten sycamores and ash rotholes, sycamore and ash. And yeah, as I say, it mimics these. It goes for, that is a perfectly healthy veteran sycamore. It's lost a huge limb and revealed all this rot, inside rot, but otherwise healthy and alive. I've also been studying it in Derbyshire, Haddon Park, where it likes the ash trees, again with rot holes. Perfectly healthy ash tree. It's not got ash dieback, but it does have a rot hole. So you stand by rot holes and you just look at the hoverflies coming in. And sometimes they're around the base. Like bumblebees fly around the base of trees. These mimic bumblebees, and they're going for root rot. So they'll suddenly disappear at the base of the tree. They found a place where the roots are rotting. So fascinating flies, and they're just two examples. But there's a whole suite of saproxyllic hoverflies that like dead wood in different microhabitats, and they've all been graded, so you can actually use them and use the grades as an ecological tool for site assessment, rather like Adrian mentioned with the beetles. So, some hoverflies look more like dunflies. These are the Brachiopa species. And these actually breed in sap wounds. So where trees tree trunks get wounded, they ooze sap, and the sap gets stuck behind flaky bark, and that's where these lay their eggs and where their larvae develop. And sister species, Brachiopa insensilis, is actually fond of horse chestnut trunk wounds. So I suppose really as conservationists we should all be going around with machetes, putting wounds in tree trunks, get the sap running. I'm joking, of course. It's not only the hoverflies, there's also a group of crane flies, which we call the woodland or dead wood crane flies. Also the larvae breed in dead wood. And this is Ctenophora ornata, and this is the cream of the crop. This actual photograph by Trevor Penwilton is the one found at Clipston Old Quarter in 2009. And at that time, it was so far north of its national distribution, you know, it was one of those sort of blow your socks off moments. But it's later been found in Sherwood in 2013 and also in 2018. Nationally very rare, and the notch records are the most northerly in the country. And there are other species as well. There's a little group, and you know, unlike the drab grey-coloured crane flies, you know, these are brightly coloured, yellows and blacks and reds. I've just popped this one in because this is on the long list. So at the moment, it's the only one that's going to be listed in the Nottinghamshire Nature recovery strategy. Only one record so far. Adrian Dutton found it in Clubber in 2019. It's larvae live in rock holes where they may be predators of beetle larvae. It's very rare nationally. It's called the window fly because its sister species is a very common species that you find on your kitchen window. So there are two species. One that you get on your kitchen window or in your greenhouse, and then this very, very rare one associated with ancient woodland. Fascinating. So, not all ancient woodland hoverflies are dead wood feeders. Some are confined to ancient woodland because they're associated with ancient woodland plants. And the Ramsden's hoverfly, Portividia, is an example, in that it's always found close to Ramsden's wild garlic. So the adults like to sunbathe like this on garlic leaves and sometimes feed on the garlic flowers. The larvae live in the stems and the bulbs of wild garlic. Uncommon in Nottinghamshire, and mainly on the magnesium limestone woodlands, obviously where the best place for garlic. Okay, moving on to wetlands. This is Miss and Carr, classic site in the north of the county. And when I think of wetlands, I think the first group that springs to mind, and my favourite group, the Sciomyzidae, the snail-killing flies. This is the blue long-horned snail killer. And these are great because most of them are found in wetland habitats, and they're parasitoid on specific freshwater snails, and some of them go for pea mussels. So mollusks, they go for mollusks. There are two of them that actually go for millipedes. We call those the millipede flies. But most of them go for parasitoids on freshwater mollusks. So you've got a whole range of those found in different wetland habitats in Nottinghamshire, but very much underdone, very much under-recorded. There's a lot of work still to do on these. And it's not only lakes and ponds and rivers that are important. The little bits of water, springs, wet flushes, and seepages are very, very important little microhabitats, especially where you've got underlying calcareous rocks. They're bubbling up calcareous water and depositing calcareous mud. And when I look at a habitat like that, I think straight away of the aquatic soldier flies, the aquatic strats, which I call mud chemists. But they're very, 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 very beautiful. They're all nicely coloured, beautiful, exquisite little flies. I call them mud chemists because the larvae develop in mud, and each species seems to like a different sort of mud chemistry. Certainly calcareous mud, but other sort of chemical balances as well. There's one species I've been looking at in the Yorkshire Dales, which only breeds in tufa. So where you've got water bubbling up, depositing tufa, and then you get the moss, and they breed in the wet tufa under the moss. They're as specific as that, but a very nice group to study. Just to give you an example, Oplodontha viridula there has been found at Steetley and Lady Lee Quarry, Oxycera rara, Lady Lee Quarry and the Idle Valley Reserve. So at the moment they're the only Knox records for this. So I think further work will make a big impact on these. There's lots more to be done. There's also a group of hoverflies that live in wetlands, the wetland hoverflies, where the larvae breed in sort of semi-aquatic muddy conditions, or in the case of an azimaya, they kind of breed in the rotten stems of bulrushes and things as they sort of emerge from the water. They're sort of half-rotted down the bases. The 2-5 hogfly in the north, we've only so far found it at Nissan Car. This group we call the footballers. We gave them this name. A lot of them have got black and yellow striped thorax, and at the time we thought it looked like the sort of Sheffield Wednesday away kit. So like 30 years ago, so we just got the nickname footballers. But yeah, so a lot of them have that pattern on the thorax. And like the woodland saprophyllid hoverflies, these wetland ones have also been graded. So we can use the species assemblages and the grades as a rough ecological tool for assessing wetlands. One of the biggest groups are the crane flies, well over 300 species, and a lot of them have aquatic larvae. You've seen the dead wood ones earlier on, but most of them have aquatic or semi-aquatic larvae. This is a nice example. The twin striped grey, only 3 records for North Notts, and two of them are in this area, the Dumbles, and it likes riverine silt. So quite often you'll see the females, it's called pricking. They'll just be sort of dancing around, pricking eggs. Dragonflies do that, don't they? Yeah, well, yeah, these do the same. They're pricking into the mud. So it's a huge group, and that's just one example.
Are the stream beds sand or clay?
Yeah, sandy. Yeah, sandy, kind of silty. Yeah.
Rather than clay.
Rather than clay. Yeah, it goes for the sandy, silty ones. Yeah. And then we've got another group of wetland ones. We've got the wetland scatterfaggots. The scatterfaggots are known as the dumflies, and it includes the common yellow dumfly that everybody sees, that you see on cowpacks by the thousand. But not all the scatterfaggots actually feed in dung. These two, for example, very, very elegant species are found in wetlands, and their larvae live in the sort of organic detritus at the edge of wetlands. So to give you an example, we've got the reed-bed dumfly there, only recorded from Lady Lee Quarry so far. And then this one, which likes Carex fens, has only been recorded from Clumber in 2015. So lots more to do on those. They are probably more common than the records suggest. But very, very elegant flies, and really quite easy to recognise on the field. Okay, moving on now to lowland heath and grasslands. So here we've got the Diptera Forum members recording away at Spalford Warren in 2015. And when I think of this habitat, lowland heath, lowland grassland, I think straight away robber flies. Okay, it's a perfect habitat for robber flies. Robber flies are mainly a southern English group, lots of dry, sort of sunshine, chalky downs. But the climate and habitat in Nottinghamshire is very good for them as well. So for some of them, they like a swath of grassland with different levels of grass. So shortish grass with long stems, and they perch on the long stems and look for the prey, which they grasp with their very hairy front feet, which form a net to catch flies. Some of them perch on long grass, some of them will perch on bushes. So where you get a nice mosaic habitat, grassland with its scrub, the heathland. Yeah. So far we've got, it says here 10 species for North Notts, which is very good so far north. So open dry grassland, sandy or a limy substrate, And the larvae, they live in the sort of dry, sandy soil. So again, hot, dry, open habitats. Just a quick aside, not flies, but Hymenoptera. These habitats are also very, very good for Hymenoptera, as you heard from Tim. Thank you. As you heard from Tim this morning. And I'm just showing off a bit now, but I was looking at Clipston Railway cutting in 1989, and I found Ammophila pubescens, which is the rarer of the two Ammophilas. And at the time, it was so far north of its national distribution in southern England that they didn't believe me. But fortunately, I got a voucher specimen, so it was able to be verified. And then I went back 10 years later and found the species still there. And then a few years ago, we had a meeting over to Spelford Warren and found it there as well. And I believe that they are still the most northerly records in Britain.
It's mainly one of southern heathlands in the south of England. So that's just a little aside on the Hymenoptera.
Okay, 5 minutes. And then going back to the snail-killing flies, so they're not all wetland species. There are one or two very, very pretty ones that like dry habitat as well. And these prey on land snails. So Trichotoptera, yes, beautiful picture of the skyo. And then we've got the net-winged snail killer, which you can identify in the field. A combination of the net wings and the beautiful velvet patches next to the eyes. And then we've got the tachinids. These are parasitic flies. A lot of them go for Lepidoptera, go for caterpillars. This one, Gonia picaea, for example, goes for the antler moth. These will be out any day now. If the sunshine was to come out this afternoon, they would be out. They're very early flyers, middle to late March, sometimes just into April. And the final habitat I want to mention is post-industrial land and open mosaic habitat. And we've seen this morning from Tim Sexton's talk just how important this is for invertebrates. And it's the same for Diptera. So Nottinghamshire, old colliery sites, old quarries, sand pits, railway tracks. These are all excellent places for Diptera, especially where they've not been blanket planted with trees or carelessly landscaped. So it's the substrate, the subsoil, and the like colliery waste that's exposed. That's the important habitat. You know, where they've been topsoiled and sown with ryegrass, they're not so good. Just an example here that one of the rare hoverflies that you might find. I found this first found it on fly ash tips at West Burton Power Station, and it likes open ruderal vegetation with bare patches. This is Spherophoria rupellii, so it's a hoverfly that has larvae that feed on very, very specific aphids attached to different ruderal plants. So this sort of habitat is what I'm looking for. A nice range of grasslands, a nice range of flowers and nectar, just a few bushes, you know, not planted up with trees, bare patches, open, sunny, gets nice and hot in summer. That's where you will find good insects, good flies. Okay, just a few more, nearly finished. So amongst these, you've got another nice group to study, the picturing flies, simply because they're very pretty. And just like David mentioned this morning, Tephritis matricarii. This one was only known from a few places in Kent until a few years ago, and then whoosh. It's another example. It's now moving north. It's in Nottinghamshire, and it goes for home. Most of the picturing flies form galls, so this forms galls on hawk spears. And then another example, Aurelia falcata is one of the group which we call the golden banded picturing flies. And this one is always found around ghostbeard. For the larvae form little galls in ghostbeard. And the final group in this sort of habitat, again, the tachinids, the parasitic flies. 3 more examples. Easy ones to identify in the field for anybody. Tachina grossa is a great big bomb, like a bumblebee, and that goes for very large caterpillars. So we're talking about eggers, fox moth, in the Peak District, probably emperors as well. Goes for the big caterpillars. That's where the larvae parasitoids, the adults, they just like to hang around drinking nectar. Phasia hemiptera, as you can see, is absolutely exquisite, beautiful fly, quite often seen on hogweeds. Its larvae go for the larger shield bugs. And this is a great one, Cystogasta clavosa, the bishop's mitre fly. The bishop's mitre is a shield bug, which again is a southern species that moved north in the noughties. We were finding it in Clumber just around the millennium. So it's a southern species that moved north, and several years behind it, its parasite, Cystogasta clavosa, has also moved north as well. So, fascinating ecology. And just to finish off, it's important, anybody can go out, as you've seen, you can go out recording flies. It's important to report your records. I think iRecord is best, if you can do it, if you can log on. It's free, it's very easy. The great thing about iRecord is it shares your records with local BRCs, with national recording schemes, and with county recorders as well. If you don't want to use iRecord, make sure your records get to one of these sources. But I love it. I've put everything on that. I've got 96,000 records on iRecord. You can play with it for hours. You can look at your own records. You can look at everybody else's. You can do fancy maps, and it's all online. It's wonderful. But the key thing is, report your sightings to somebody, to one of those sources. So the take-home messages, lots of opportunity in knots to make useful and exciting records. There's still a lot to be done, and it is a brilliant county with a brilliant broad range of habitats, as you've seen. It's never been better for identifying flies. There's more information, there are more books, more keys, more online resources than ever before. But most of all, flies are just fascinating, and flies are for life. And if you've not yet read Erica McAllister's books, then do. They're absolutely brilliant. Read one of those. So there we go. Thank you very much for listening.